Okay, there's Rocky. He was just having some of his wet food over on the table there. And now he's going back to his pillow to retire for the evening. Hiya, Rocky. Where is he? Oh, there we go. Which end of him is that? Where am I? Okay, there's his tail. So there's his front end there. Okay. I was having trouble. My eyes are terrible, and I'm looking at him in a cracked screen here on my old phone. But my old phone is great because it has lots of memory. It does. And so the new phone has hardly any. The new phone, I make a video maybe 2 minutes long and then I am done. But this thing here, I can sit here and spew nonsense for an hour. Well, maybe not an hour, but definitely the better part of a half hour anyway. So there he is, my best friend in the whole world, up on his pillow, doing his evening ablutions, cleaning his paws after he had a nice feed of Frisky's shredded chicken dinner. And anyway, the purpose of this video, I guess I should get to the point, even though I do have a lot of memory on my phone. I should still get to the point. The purpose of this video is to tell y'all a story. And I just remembered this. I have never told this story on here before. And it's quite an interesting story. And it's the story of the hospital in my hometown of Perth, Ontario, Canada. Now, the hospital in Perth is called the GWM Hospital, or the Great War Memorial Hospital. And the building, the main building, the oldest part of the building, of course, it's been added on to a lot over the years, and it's a lot bigger than it originally was. But the main part of the building, which you can still see in this kind of the center of the whole works, is an old stone house. And I believe that area is now used as office space within the hospital. It's now like an administrative office part of the hospital. But that building started out its days as a private residence. And it was the private residence of a man by the name of John Glass Malloch. And John Glass Malloch wasn't just any man. John Glass Malloch was a judge. And John Glass Malloch was really evil. Like, he was like an evil man. He was like a supervillain in the 1800s. He was just a diabolical, nasty, rotten, evil man. Anyway, and he was a judge, so I'm sure that would give you a lot of confidence if you had to go to court, that you had to stand in front of this evil man and be judged by him. Anyway, when the house was built, Judge Malloch made a deal with an Irish farmer. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, don't go messing with an Irish farmer. Not a good idea. As John Glass Malloch, the judge, found out. Because, of course, being evil, you just know he had to mess with the poor farmer. You know, he couldn't just keep his word and keep his end of the bargain. He had to mess with the poor Irish farmer. The poor Irish farmer, who probably had a wicked temper, and this was not somebody to fool around with anyway. Well, John Glass Malloch, he made a deal with this Irish farmer. He said, "You bring me the stone to build my house, and I will pay you a handsome fee for having done so." Well, the farmer had a kind of a stone quarry on his property. So he quarried all this rock, and he put it in the wagon. This is a horse-drawn wagon. You can imagine now what kind of a trip this was. an old wooden horse-drawn wagon full of stone, heavy stone pulled by horses over practically non-existent roads from the countryside into the town to John Malloch's property, to John Glass Malloch's property, where he was going to build his house, which is now the hospital, or at least part of it. Anyway, the farmer, the old Irish farmer, he kept his end of the bargain. He brought the stone, unloaded it, had a bad trip, apparently had mechanical problems with the wagon, busted wheels and axles and everything else. It was an awful trip. It took him forever to get there. And it was a trip he definitely didn't want to ever have to repeat again. It was an ordeal. But he was going to be paid handsomely for his work. Don't forget, that was the deal. He was going to be paid handsomely for his work, so it was all worth it. Except for the fact that after he unloaded the stone, the fiend, Judge John Glass Malloch, said, "Well, guess what? Guess what, old Irish farmer man there, who came in with his team of horses, practically killed his team of horses, bringing all the stone in here, practically killed himself, bringing all the stone in here, wrecked his good wagon, bringing all the stone in here. Guess what, Mr. Irish farmer? I ain't going to pay you. Piss off." Well, the old Irish farmer, he didn't like that. He raised hell about that, as you could imagine he would, as any one of us would, whether we were an old Irish farmer or not, And anyway, John Glass Malloch was having none of it. He just said, "Get off my land. If you don't like it, you can load up all that stone and take it back where you got it. If that's what you want to do, have another trip, take it home. You had such a great time bringing it here, you'll have an even better time taking it home, won't you? If that's what you want to do, you go right ahead. It's your property. You can do that." Well, I haven't paid for it, so if you want to put yourself through that ordeal for the sake of making a point, go right ahead. Well, of course, he wasn't going to do that. The last thing he wanted was to make that trip back with all that stone. So, what he did do, though, is he told the fiend, Judge John Glass Malloch, he said, "No," he said, "I'm not going to take the stone back. But here's what I am going to do. I'm going to put a curse on your house. That's what I'm going to do. This stone that you're going to use to build your house, I'm putting a curse on the house that's going to be built from this stone." And he said, "Here's what's going to happen. Until you give this building up that you're building from this stone to some cause which will be for the public good, all of your sons, all of your male descendants, your sons and your grandsons on down the line, they're all going to die young until you give this place up and it's put to the public good. As long as you choose to be a greedy asshole and live here, that's what's going to happen to you. All your sons are going to die. You're going to go to a lot of funerals, Judge John Glass Malloch. They're all going to die young, and they're all going to die in weird ways, too. They're all going to die terrible, untimely deaths. Have a nice day, you so-and-so." And away he went. Anyway, he went back to his farm, probably cursing with an Irish accent the whole way. Can only imagine what he said. Maybe stopped at the hotel and had a nip of grog before he left or something, had a wee nip of something to steady his nerves for the trip home. Anyway, what he said would happen did happen. Judge John Glass's Malloch sons, they all died young. They died in freak accidents, or they just get sick and die and nobody would understand it, I don't know, he was just sitting there and all of a sudden he started to puke and he died. It was one of those deals. He just, you know, yeah, he was just there and the tree fell over. Well, that was it, you know. That's the kind of thing that happened anyway. All his sons died. Some of his sons lived just long enough to have children of their own. And the males also all died in weird ways and young. And this went on in that family until the family, of course, Judge John Glass Malloch had died already by this time, but the family donated the house to the town of Perth, so that it could become the hospital. Now, I'm going to tell you another story about Judge John Glass Malloch. You know, like most old mansions belonging to evil rich guys in the 1800s, this thing had a turnaround driveway. Basically, it had a U-type driveway. You know, you could drive in, go around in front of the house, and drive back out again, and you didn't have to back up or turn around or anything. You know? Great thing it was, anyway. Best thing since sliced bread, the U-shaped driveway, I think, anyway, that it is. In fact, I think it predates sliced bread, actually. So I guess sliced bread would be the best thing since the U-shaped driveway, to be specific. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this story, as you can tell. It's one of my favorite stories about my hometown, anyway. You know, corrupt people connected with the law and everything else you can imagine. I just love this stuff. Anyway, what happened, though, is when Judge Malloch passed away, as we all must do, whether we're evil or not, we're all going to pass away someday. They had his body in the horse-driven hearse in front of the house. They were going to take it to the graveyard. A little crowd was there, whoever bothered to come. Probably a lot of people showed up just to make sure he was actually dead, because they didn't like him very much, because he was evil. As I already touched on that, he was an evil dude. Anyway, when it come time to go to the cemetery, they had loaded his body into the hearse. The driver climbed up onto his seat there with his whip in his hand, you know, and his black top hat and his coat with the tails and all the rest of it, all the finery of a funeral, you know. He gets up on his seat there, and of course he goes, ah, like that, you know, like get the horses going, you know. Nothing. The horses are trying to go. They're trying to pull the hearse. They're pawing at the ground, but they can't move that hearse. They just can't move it. It was like the hearse was loaded with lead or something. It just would not move. Anyway, so the hearse driver, he's not sparing the whip. You know, he's going to really put it to these horses, and they're going to move this hearse. So he's just with the, you know, flailing the whip around and stuff there, hitting the horses on their backs, and the poor horses are crying out in agony. You know, he's just really putting it to them and hurting them, really hurting them. And they're doing their best, but they cannot move this hearse. It will not move. And they're just pawing at the ground. They're practically burying themselves in the driveway trying to move this hearse. It won't move. Well, the priest was there. The priest went around, and he took his little holy water thing, you know, they have there where they can dip it in the holy water, and they do that and sprinkle the holy water around. The priest took his holy water sprinkling thingamajiggy, whatever it's called, I don't know, the holy water sprinkler or whatever. And he did this, you know, around the wheels. When all around the hearse, there sprinkled holy water around all four wheels. And of course, the guy's up there with the whip, just putting it to the horses, you know, just really engaging in various acts of animal cruelty. He'd be in jail these days for what he was doing. And horses pawing at the ground, just desperately. Holy crap, let's get this thing moving before this guy kills us. You know, I mean, this guy's crazy. He's going to kill us. We got to get this thing moving. Anyway, couldn't move it, couldn't move it. The priest sprinkles the holy water around the wheels. When he sprinkled the holy water around the fourth and final wheel, the hearse suddenly busted free and it shot across the lawn. Then the guy had a bad time. He had to get it stopped. First he couldn't get it to go. Now he had to get it stopped. And those horses, they were not stopping. They were moving. You know, you wanted us to go? Well, we're going now, aren't we? You know, this is what they did anyway. And so he had a bad time getting them to stop. And what people said about that, what the story that was told at the time was that the devil himself had a grip on that hearse, and he was holding the wheels to the ground so the horses couldn't move it. And when the priest sprinkled the holy water around the wheels, it forced the devil to release his grip. And then the hearse could move. Of course, the horses were furiously trying to move it because the guy up on the seat was going half crazy and, you know, beating them mercilessly. And so all that power was suddenly unleashed, and away the hearse went right across the lawn, you know. Anyway, that's the story of Judge John Glass Malloch. I'm guessing that they did get his old bones buried anyway. I don't know where they laid him to rest, but I'm sure wherever they laid him to rest, he's probably not resting comfortably. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's probably not one of those souls that's resting peacefully. That's the story anyway of Judge John Glass Malloch, and I believe it was called Victoria Hall, the house, but don't quote me on that because I might be wrong. For some reason, that's what I think, though, that it was called Victoria Hall. It is now the hospital in Perth anyway, or at least it's part of the hospital. The house was turned into a hospital, and then over the years it was added to. But the original house is still there. Anyway, that's part of the building. Anyway, that's the story. I hope you all enjoyed it. Maybe not a great bedtime story, I don't know. Let me give you some nightmares, but apparently it's a true story. I mean, no, I wasn't there, so I can't speak as a witness or anything, but it's the story that was passed down to me. And when I was young, I heard this story, and yeah, it was passed down to me, and generations before me all heard this story, and now I'm passing it on to you. Alrighty, that's it for now. Have a good day. Look, we're 18 minutes in, and it's still rolling. Like I told you, I can sit here and talk stupid for a long time with this phone. Alright, bye for now.